Hello, friends. We are welcome to the class. This is Psyc337 class that's learning. Okay, so if this is your first time hearing about this course, then you should be in level 100. Okay, because if you're in level 300, then definitely you've heard about learning over and over again. Okay, so if you're in level 100, yes, you will enjoy this course as well, but then things are going to be new to your ears. Okay, so we are going to benefit from this. However, guys, my name is Siddik Salis, and I'll be using Dr. Inusa's slides for this peer-to-peer discussion or tutorials. Yes, I say peer-to-peer, don't say Siddik, you're a graduate. Why are you saying peer-to-peer? Anyways, we are all students, so we're here to help each other. So let's dive into it. Today's class is going to focus on the following objectives. So let's get it clear. Okay, so we will be talking about what learning is about, understand what learning is, and what is not learning. I'm deliberately choosing these slides, okay, for the sake of simplicity and clarity, okay. Maybe I'll say I prefer these slides. Okay, so don't get it twisted. Okay, so we'll also be looking at the classification of different types of learning. We'll also be looking at we should be able to differentiate the various conceptions of learning. What are some of the concepts of learning, and how do we differentiate them? Okay, so the main focus is going to be about definition of learning and what is not learning. Okay, and how learning has been classified. Okay, the types of learning. Okay, so let's dive into it. I don't want to waste much time because for those of you in level 300, this particular year, you are already preparing for exams this Saturday. Okay, so we're going to go through this. Then I'll meet you and then we solve the questions. Okay, so before you sit in for the questions, you make sure you have actually noted things down here and then you know them. In the process of doing this, just make sure you have your pen and paper by you or pencil by you. However, just have a jotter by you or a note by you. Don't be writing full notes. There's not the time for it. Just be writing points. Okay, just be writing points down that there shouldn't be that much. When you look at it, you understand the whole session. Okay. Okay, so let's get into it. So what is learning before you see the face of the slides? What is learning? Because we've learned it back then. I'm not talking about those in level 100, those who are saying it, who are seeing this in the first place, for the first time. For those of you who have seen it over and over again, what is learning? Pause the video and ask yourself that question and answer it. Then say you're good. Okay, good. Okay, so learning, we say, is a relatively permanent change in behavior due to experience. Relatively permanent change in behavior due to experience. Good. If you got that correct, then buy some ice cream for yourself. Okay, so it means you're keeping your learning in check. Okay. So here we go. Says a relatively permanent change in behavior that occurs as a result of experience. Same thing, okay? That's Terry 2000, meaning a publication by Terry. That's a surname published in the year 2000. Okay, so that, like I said, this is more like a revision, so I wouldn't waste much time. But then I have to be patient as well in explaining certain things. Now, when we were defining learning, we said it's a relatively permanent change. So we're going to look at what we mean by relatively permanent, okay? And then we also be looking at change in behavior, and we'll also be looking at experience. Okay, we said relatively permanent change in behavior that occurs as the result of experience, okay? Okay, so what do we mean by relatively permanent? Now, the word relative means that the way it will last with this person, or the way this thing will deal with this person, will differ from how it will deal with the other person. Here, there is the word permanent, so it making it like a compound word. Relatively permanent. Okay, so We are saying that learning in this context should be permanent, should be like lifelong. But then how long it will last with people is relative. It differs from one person to the other. Okay. So it means that learning in this context, under this topic, we are not talking about things that are temporal. For example, we said it's a relatively permanent change in behavior. So when there is a change in your behavior, you have to check, is it relatively permanent? Is it long lasting? If it is relatively permanent, then we move to the next criteria or the next characteristics. If it is not relatively permanent, for example, you woke up in the morning and you are tired, okay? Fatigue, you are feeling tired. But by afternoon, it is gone. This is not learning, okay? I hope you understand. So it says relatively permanent learning does not include temporal changes such as tiredness. Okay, so that is it. It should result in long-lasting behavior, long-lasting in relative terms. So how long it will last is relative. Okay, good. You see, sometimes you tell someone if the person goes to a certain family to ask for a girl's, okay, let's say the person got married to a certain type of woman, and the woman used to beat him. Then he divorced that woman, went for a second wife or for second marriage, and he went to bring the same type of woman. What do you think people will say to him? What do you think you will say to the person? And who they won't see there. You don't learn sense, right? You don't learn knowledge, right? You don't learn. You don't learn. That's what we're going to tell the person. Why? We are trying to understand that this person, what happened to this person has not stick to the person's head, has not stick to his cognition. Why would you go and do this, repeat the same mistake? You have not learned. You understand? That's what we're going to tell the person. We are saying that if the person has learned, it should be relatively permanent. I hope you understand this. Good. Next thing is we say that it should cause a change in behavior. You understand? It should cause a change in behavior. Behavior, we talk about two types of behavior. Behavior in terms of cognition. Okay? Behavior is of two. I hope you've not forgotten. Covert and overt. You remember? Covert, overt, right? Covert is the way you process things, the way you perceive your environment, the way you think. Okay, things that we cannot see, but it's going through within you. Things that we can't see, but it's going through within you. That is covert behavior, right? You got that? You remember that? Good. Overt behavior are the responses we can see. So if you can see me moving, waving, that is overt behavior. If you can see my lips moving, my gestures, then that is overt behavior. Overt behavior. They are behaviors that we can observe and measure. Now, we are saying that this relatively permanent thing should cause a change in either of these behaviors or both of these behaviors. They should cause a change. So we are saying that learning can mainly be inferred from observable behavior. So the learning here, this is saying that we are trying to refer to the overt behavior, the one that we can perceive. Okay, under this context, that is what we're looking out for. In essence, in order to know whether learning has taken place or not, you have to compare the person's prior behavior to an experience and the behavior after the experience. We'll talk about the experience later. Now, let's assume I don't know how to play volleyball, okay, or basketball. Then I went to the field and I was being taught. So it's a process, okay? Learning is a process. This learning is a process. It doesn't happen incidentally. We will discuss that under experience. So I went for the first time. I was taught how to shoot and all that. I was taught how to shoot several times. And then from time to time, days after days, I'm able to shoot, okay? We say there has been a change. If you compare it to when I came before, there has been a change in my behavior. I hope we got that. Okay, let's go to the next one. It should be experienced. What you are learning should be something that you went through it consciously. It was a process, okay? It was a process you went through. It did not happen suddenly. It didn't suddenly happen. It didn't just get into you. For example, when you wake up and you feel like you feel tired, you feel fatigued, you didn't learn that. Meaning you didn't go through a process to say, let me acquire tiredness. It's just there. It just happens. So you don't call this learning. So when any of these three, how do you call it? Characteristics fail, any of them fails, then learning has failed under this context. Okay, you don't say there's learning. Hmm? So number one, we say it should be relatively permanent. Relatively permanent. Remember what it means. It means it's enduring and it's also long lasting. However, it is relative. Number two, you remember, should cause a change in behavior. Okay, so you taught someone how to do catwalk, and the person now is able to repeat that over time. Okay, compared to the other previous one, you say the person has learned. Why? It has caused a change in the person's way of walking. The last one, we say it doesn't just come to you. You experience it. You go through, like you interact with your environment. You interact with your environment. It's a conscious thing you go through, okay? And you acquire it consciously. So anything you don't acquire it consciously, we don't call that, you can't call that learning. I hope you understand this. Very clear. Okay. So sometimes something that happens to you in your lifetime, usually involving interaction with your environment. So you see, that's what I mean. Okay. When you're interacting with your environment, talking with friends, playing basketball, playing football, tennis, like interact your laptop, your whatever you're doing when you're interacting with your environment is your immediate surrounding. Anytime you are interacting with your environment, you gain, we say you are experiencing the environment, right? Or you are gaining an experience. So the experience is what is going to lead you into a change in your behavior. So, for example, if you interact with your iron, normally we are ironing and you want to touch it when you were younger, okay, you want to touch it and see how it feels, then it shocks you. The experience you've gained would determine whether you do that the next time, right? So it has caused a change in your behavior, right? So you don't touch it the next time again. If you touch it again, you have not learned. Until you stop touching it, then you've learned. I hope you understand. Okay. Okay, I think we've done with this. So explain why the following keywords are important in defining learning. Do that on your own and let's see. Experience, behavior. Why do we say they are very important? They are important because if the relatively permanent thing with you that it's not gained through experience, you didn't consciously interact with your environment. Okay, you did not do that consciously. You didn't interact with your environment. Although there's a relatively permanent relatively permanent change in you as a human, but since it is not due to experience, we don't call that learning, as we are about to see. So something like a machine, you had a cut, okay, let's say your finger, and you are, God forbid, anyways, and then you are feeling it will cause a pain in you and it will change how you walk or something. It will change how you talk to people. You slow down because of the pain. This is not caused due to conscious experience. Something just happened to you and that is it. You didn't go through a process and say, let me learn this. So that's why it's important in defining what learning is. Okay, so behavior. If that thing doesn't cause any change in your behavior, you went to bring in the same woman in the second marriage. Third, it has not caused a change. The basketball you went to learn how to shoot. Yesterday, the way you were shooting, you're shooting the same way today. You're shooting the same way you came. That's not cause a change in behavior. Then that is also not learning. And if it happens in something else other than behavior, okay, behavior is what we can observe. Okay, response to stimulus. If it doesn't cause a change to your response to your environment, response to stimulus, and then there is no learning. Learning has not taken place with regards to this context. In this context, we don't say learning has occurred. I hope you understand that. So these are some of the things that learning is not. Reflex. Reflex behaviors are not learned. Reflexes are like we blinking our eyes. Okay, they are involuntary behaviors. Okay, or involuntary responses. So something you hear a knock a boom and then you jumped. Okay, so this is not learning, right? It's being controlled by the autonomic nervous system, as we've learned in biological psychology and general psychology. Okay, so it's being controlled by the autonomic nervous system, meaning that you don't consciously do that. That is reflex. Reflex just happens. So when something is coming to hit your eye and your eye blinks, then that is not learning. Why? It's a reflex. So you breathing, it's a reflex. Sneezing, a reflex. Okay. So this is not learning. When you touch a hot pan and feel the hotness and burns you, take off your hand, you don't say there's learning. You taking off your hand like that is not learning. That is a reflex. So reflexes are not learning. I hope you understand that. The next one is instincts. Instincts are innate, like they are behaviors that lead us to certain things that we don't have control of. I don't know if it is here, but it was found that how do you call it? Salmon, when they are in their natural environments, when they're about to die, they return back to where they were born. Where they were born, they return to where they were born, and they die there. Can you imagine? Salmon, when they want to die, they return to their place of birth and they die there. These are instant. So the salmon moving to that place is not learned. These are instant. When a child wants to suckle the mother's breast, this is a reflex. Sorry, I said reflex. Instinct. So instant behaviors are not learning. Okay. So an inborn complex behavior found in members of a species, members of a species, they are not, this is the definition of instinct. So an inborn complex behavior found in members of a species. Note that some organisms are programmed in such a way that they are controlled by their inborn tendencies. Example, nest building in birds. It's an instinctive behavior because birds start this behavior at a particular stage of their development without prompting. Note, though instinct results in changes in behavior, it does not constitute learning, okay? Because it is not due to experience. They are innate. We are born with it. So maturation, when we are maturing, when you are growing, there are changes that comes with it. So the changes that comes with growth is not learning, okay? Your walk may change, the way you walk may change, and all that. This is due to you growing. Your voice will change, and a whole lot. Things will change. So this is the sequential unfolding of inherited predispositions. Okay, they are genetics, so they will start happening in you, and then there will be some changes in your behavior. But that is not learning. Why? That is not due to conscious experience. I hope you understand. You didn't really acquire. Okay, so if you acquire how your voice should sound, and that is learning. Okay, so you go for voice training. But the way your voice will turn out to be whilst growing, it should be thick or whatever. You have a thick voice, a deep voice, or whatever. That is inherited predisposition. Okay. So maturation, we should know that it's not part of learning. I wouldn't want to waste much time on this things. I'll spend much time on this, I should say. Okay, so before we go into this, we talk about fatigue. Fatigue is not learning. Maturation is not learning. Instinct is not learning. Reflex is not learning. What again? What again can we remember? That's not learning. Talk of fatigue, right? So disability is also not learning, right? Disability is not learning. You can add more to that. Okay, so let's move to the next types of learning. We have habituation, sensitization, associative learning, complex learning. So we'll talk about these four in a nutshell. Habituation. What is habituation? Habituation happens due to sensory adaptation. Habituation happens due to sensory adaptation. When we say sensory adaptation, which is also here, it's also in biological psychology. When our senses, whether our eyes, our ears, hear something, let's say our ears, listen to, first time you hear a song, it'd be like, wow, wow. Then you listen to it again, and you realize that you will not respond to the song the way you responded to it in the first place. It will elicit no special response or further response from you. It will just be like there like that. Okay, the first time you saw your wife or your husband, you were so happy and all that, but you keep nothing changed about the stimulus, meaning your husband. Nothing changed about him. So it's the same thing you are seeing every day, and your senses will adapt it, and then you will not perceive, or the thing will not stimulate you in any special way anymore. At a point, it will be like nothing. You understand? It will be like nothing to you. So that's adaptation. When the organism does not respond, when the stimulus, okay, whatever you are experiencing, doesn't elicit any further response from you. Okay. Okay, now let's move to the next one, sensitization. What is sensitization? So basically, sensitization is like becoming, how do you call it? Aware of the thing. Like you are approaching the thing and you are not aware of the thing. Let me put it that way. You are not aware of the thing. So if a snake has bitten you before in the bush, the next time you're going to the bush, you be careful. So that's sensitization. You are being sensitized about that. You went to the bush and you had a snake bite, you were cured. Next time, you'll be cautious. Okay, so it's a type of learning. So sensitization. The next one is associative learning, which has other branches under it or subtopics under it. Associative learning, we have classical conditioning, instrumental learning or operant conditioning, complex learning. So we'll talk about classical conditioning and associative learning. We'll talk about operant conditioning or instrumental learning. We'll talk about complex learning, which goes into cognitive learning. I hope you understand this. Okay, so let's move on. So habituation, we say it is a simple form of learning in which an organism, after a period of exposure to a stimulus, stops responding. That is the diminution or waning of responsiveness to repetitive stimulation. So when someone, let's say, holds you in your hand for the first time, you feel some warmness, but the person keeps that there for a very long time, the hand is going to adapt that sensation, and therefore the person will not feel any special sensation again. There will be that sensation will not be felt anymore. I hope we understand. Yes. So think about going into a room that is smelling funny. When you stay there for a very long time, you know that you don't perceive it as you entered again. Okay, so what has happened right now is habituation. What happened there is habituation. I hope we get that. Okay. It has some merits we can learn. But then, like I said, I will not spend much time here. Sensitization, the opposite of habituation is sensitization. So you see, we say habituation, you not really experience the thing anymore. Someone holds your hand, and like after some time, you don't feel the warmness anymore. So that is habituation, right? No special response anymore, no response anymore. With sensitization, you become aware of the thing and like you understand. So we say the process whereby an individual learns to respond defensively to a wide range of stimuli due to exposure to a dangerous or a painful stimulus. I've explained that using the snake already. Okay, it's good. In sensitization, an individual develops an enhanced responsiveness to repetitive stimulation. So if you think the next time you're going to the bush, you're either holding a cutlass or a stick or something like that. Okay. I think they've made example, doctor has made example with the snake here. People who are afraid of snakes would readily develop a heightened sense of awareness. So I use this awareness thing as a keyword to grasp sensitization. Remember, we have desensitization when treating phobias and all that. Yeah, using classical condition. If they have to walk through a bush, they have to walk through a bush. If they have been bitten by snakes, a snake before, they become more aware. So that's sensitization. Associative learning. So, like I said, talking about classical condition, operant condition. But what is associative learning? Associating a stimulus to a stimulus. It's associative. Or stimulus to a stimulus to elicit a response. So a stimulus will be associated to another stimulus to elicit a response. So usually it is referred to as the SR, that is stimulus response. Response is behavior. Stimulus response. Okay. Association. Stimulus response association. They'll be associated. Okay, so here we can, when I talk about stimulus to elicit a response, I'm talking about classical conditioning, where we associate a conditioned stimulus with an unconditioned stimulus to elicit a conditioned response. I hope we remember this, right? Okay. Talking about stimulus and response, I'm talking about operant conditioning here. So there is a fire, or let's iron, and you touch it. You touching it is a response, okay? And it burns you. When it burns you, it's another response. It burns you and you take off your hand. Will you touch it again? So this is a response and a stimulus. So we have association between stimuli, which I've explained already, right? Association between response and consequences. So consequences, okay, so again, I should say consequences rather. So there is a stimulus such as the iron. You touch it, burns you, you take off your hand. So you taking off your hand, it burning you is a consequence. Taking off your hand is a response. Now you felt burnt by the stimulus. Will you touch it again? The answer is no. So that is operant conditioning. Okay. Talk of association between stimuli, we talk about that already. That is classical conditioning, as we can see here in bold letters. Association between stimulus and consequences, we talk about it already. That is operant conditioning, as we've stated earlier. Complex learning. We are talking about what? Cognitive, basically. So complex learning is where there is an involvement of an organism's cognition, underline, cognition in learning, thinking process, how we feel, okay, our emotions and all that. So that is complex learning. So that is also a type of learning, okay. You're asking what is a stimuli? I've asked this when you guys came to level 100. I've been asking anytime I'm having a tutorial with you. I used to ask you this: what is stimulus? What is response? Stimulus, we say anything that elicits response. I'm repeating that again. Stimulus is anything that elicits response. Plural is stimuli, or stimuli as people call it. Stimuli or stimuli. And stimulus is singular. So anything that elicits. So if someone is passing, you look at the person, you looking at the person is response. The person is a stimulus. If the person's perfume called your attention, the perfume is a stimulus, and then your attention here is the response. I hope you understand. Good. So on this note, we are done with session 1. I hope you jot few things down. You jotted a few things down that will help you remember the whole slide. So let me give you an example. We began with a definition of learning. Have you written that one down? Now, when we began with that, so I'm summarizing the slides. Definition of learning. When we define that learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior due to experience, we underline 3 keywords. We underline relatively permanent. We'll go together. Relatively permanent change in behavior and experience. Relatively permanent change in behavior and experience. Do you remember them? Good. Then we came to things that are not learning, and we mentioned some few things. Did you note them down? And did you add your own things that are not learning, like pregnancy? Okay, so then we came to the types of learning, and we mentioned the types of learning. Okay, so if you have done that, then kudos to yourself. Let's keep doing this. So I'll be posting the session 2 as well. Let's keep doing this and make sure we have them at our fingertips. So you see all the things, the summary I mentioned, if you have written it down, you can answer them. Then you're done with session 1. You have the whole session 1 in your memory. Once again, if this is your first time seeing this course, then you are in level 100. If not, then you should be in level 300 by now. And if you're in level 300, I believe you'll do good. If you're seeing this on the YouTube channel, make sure you do subscribe to the Faculty of Intellectuals and keep the bell checked so that anytime we post anything new, you'll be able to receive that. My name, once again, is Siddik Salis, and I'm your friend. Peace out.